The seats were empty, thousands of them. You saw it, I saw it, the entire planet watching the World Cup saw it. Whole blocks of red plastic sat there untouched in the most expensive sections of the stadium on the second day of the biggest tournament on Earth. And FIFA's official explanation for why those seats were empty? The fans were standing in the corridor. That's it. That's the statement. Apparently, thousands of people paid up to $400 for a World Cup seat and then decided they would rather watch the match from somewhere they could not see the pitch, next to the nachos, standing in concourses. Those are the words FIFA chose. And they tell you more about the state of this tournament than any of the glossy promotional figures the governing body has been throwing around for the last 2 years. Now let's take that statement seriously. Genuinely, sentence by sentence, with a straight face, the way FIFA clearly hopes nobody will, because it deserves to be examined properly before we say what it actually is. Here is the full version of what FIFA told The Independent on Friday. A spokesperson explained that official attendance figures reflect the number of tickets scanned and spectators present within the stadium footprint, rather than visual assessments of seating occupancy at any given moment during the match. They said FIFA works closely with stadium authorities and ticketing teams to ensure all published figures are based on verified operational data. And then came the line that has traveled around the football world faster than any of the rest of it, that during the match in Guadalajara, several ticketed fans could be seen standing in concourses rather than staying in their assigned seats. And here's the thing, on a purely technical level, none of that is a lie. An attendance figure based on tickets scanned at the turnstile really is a different measurement from a count of occupied seats. People really do leave their seats during a match. The stadium footprint really does include the concourses. Every individual word is defensible, which is exactly the trick. This is a statement engineered so that every single sentence is technically true, while the whole thing answers a question nobody asked. Because FIFA wasn't asked how it counts attendance. FIFA was asked why the seats were empty. And verified operational data is not an answer to that. It's a fog machine. It's the corporate equivalent of being caught red-handed and replying with a slide deck. The goal of a statement like this isn't to convince you. It's to give you just enough technical-sounding vocabulary that you nod, feel vaguely confused, and stop asking. It's designed to make the story go quiet, pat you on the head, say verified operational data, and hope you wander off. Standing in concourses. But let's actually test it, because this is where the whole thing collapses. Ask yourself which seats were empty. The biggest gaps at the Estadio Akron were not in the cheap corners or the nosebleed tiers, where casual fans drift in and out. They were in the premium sections closest to the pitch. The most expensive seats in the building were the emptiest. So FIFA would genuinely like us to believe that the fans who paid the most money, the ones on the halfway line, the best seats at a World Cup, looked at their once-in-a-lifetime view and thought, you know what? I'd rather go stand in the hallway. Sure. Of course they did. Happens all the time. Nothing says I spent hundreds of dollars on this, like watching the game from a concourse wall. Empty premium seats are not the signature of a crowd that wandered off to stretch its legs. They are the signature of seats that were never sold in the first place. And FIFA knows that, which is why the statement so carefully avoids saying it. Now watch what happens when you put this statement next to everything FIFA itself told us before kickoff. The official attendance was announced as 44,985, a few hundred shy of the 45,664 capacity, a near sellout on paper. Lovely number. Except this is the same tournament where a reported 180,000 tickets were still sitting on FIFA's own resale portals on the eve of the competition. The same tournament where dynamic pricing pushed the cheapest standard final ticket to a reported $5,785, with some climbing into five figures. The same tournament where FIFA had to quietly cut prices on some of its 104 matches in the weeks before it started, which, last I checked, is not what you do with a product that is flying off the shelves. You do not hold a fire sale on something there is unprecedented demand for. And that is the punchline, really. We are asked to hold two FIFA claims in our heads at once. Claim 1, demand was so historic, the governing body received over 500 million booking requests. Claim 2, those empty seats, oh, the fans were just standing in the concourse. Both of these came from the same organization. One of them is a boast and the other is an excuse, and they describe two completely different tournaments. A World Cup with 500 million booking requests does not have 180,000 unsold tickets on its own resale site. A World Cup with that demand does not need its press office inventing reasons why the good seats are empty. So here is my honest read, and I will back it up. The standing in concourses line is not an explanation. It is a sedative. It is a statement whose entire purpose is to keep people calm and keep the story from growing legs. It takes a question about prices that ordinary fans cannot afford and quietly swaps it for a question about measurement that nobody asked. It is technically true and completely evasive, and that combination is not an accident. An organization that was actually confident in its ticketing model would not need to reach for the corridor. And FIFA's own president handed us the proof. Defending the dynamic pricing on the eve of the tournament, Gianni Infantino's argument wasn't that the prices were fair. It was that the World Cup was a bigger event than the NBA Finals, which had also seen exorbitant prices for the Knicks against the Spurs. Read that again. The defense of the high prices is that another event also has high prices. That's not a justification, that's a confession with extra steps. He's not telling you the tickets are reasonable. He's telling you that expensive is the new normal, and you should be grateful it's not worse. And people are no longer buying it, figuratively, and as the empty seats show, literally. Politicians in New York and New Jersey, the region hosting the final, have launched a formal investigation into FIFA's ticketing, with complaints about a lack of clarity over online queue waiting times and the inflated prices fans hit when they finally reached the front. That's not a fan group writing an angry letter. That's elected officials in the host country opening an inquiry, and it started before Guadalajara, not after. The empty seats didn't start the fire. They just turned on the lights so everyone could see it. To be fair to FIFA, and credit where it is due, the match itself was not lifeless. The atmosphere in Guadalajara was genuinely lively. South Korean and Czech supporters were loud throughout a gripping contest that Ladislav Krejci opened before Hwang In-beom equalized, and Oh Hyun-gyu won it 2-1. The people who were there cared enormously, which is the whole tragedy of it. The fans who would have filled every one of those empty seats were the ones priced out of the building, while FIFA stood at the door telling us they were in the concourse. So what do you think? You've watched enough of these tournaments to tell the difference between a clarification and a cover story. When FIFA tells you thousands of empty premium seats were actually full of fans who simply chose to stand in a hallway, does that explain what you watched on Thursday night? Or does it explain exactly why there's an investigation in New York? FIFA said the fans were standing in the concourses. The cameras said the seats were empty. One of those is verified operational data. I'll let you decide which. If you found this worth your time, a like genuinely helps more than you'd think. Subscribe if you enjoy football coverage that reads the statement instead of swallowing it.